Order. I will call Vera Hobhouse to move the motion. I will then call the Minister to respond. There will not be an opportunity for the member in charge to wind up, as is the convention in 30-minute debates. Order, order. Vera Hobhouse to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Vickers. I beg to move that this House has considered breast cancer in younger women, and it is a pleasure to serve with you in the chair, Mr. Vickers, and I thank the Minister for being here to respond. Every woman deserves a fair chance against breast cancer, no matter her age. Breast cancer is the most common type of cancer in the UK. Most women who are diagnosed are over 50, and therefore it is a disease that is often associated with older women. But young women are at risk too. Breast cancer in younger women is often caught later, when it is more advanced. This is because there is no routine screening, and too often symptoms get dismissed as something less serious. This must change. Awareness and early detection are crucial no matter your age. Mr. Vickers, this issue arose for me during one of my constituency surgeries, where my Bath constituent Lucy shared her story, and it resonated with me because actually my nephew's mother died now many years ago of breast cancer, aged 35. Lucy, aged 38, in 2021, had 2 young children, and she was diagnosed with primary breast cancer. She underwent a mastectomy, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy before being given the all clear. Then in 2024, aged 48, a self-initiated MRI tragically came back showing her cancer had returned, leading to a diagnosis of secondary breast cancer, which is currently incurable. In both cases, she found it a struggle to be diagnosed. The first time, despite her mother having breast cancer, and Lucy presenting with a lump, at least 3 different doctors told her that it was likely to be hormones and nothing to worry about. It was not until she requested the biopsy herself, which ultimately came back showing it was cancer, that the diagnosis was made. The second time, she repeatedly voiced concerns about a symptom she was experiencing, but was repeatedly assured it was just a side effect of the treatment. Still concerned, she approached the GP, who did some initial tests, but ultimately suggested her worries were anxiety-driven. After that appointment, she came out and sobbed in her car. Searching for peace of mind, Lucy then paid privately for a breast MRI, which tragically revealed that the cancer had returned, but by then it was too late. In both cases, first by requesting the biopsy and secondly by initiating an MRI, it was up to Lucy to fight for a diagnosis.
Would the Honourable Lady give way?
I'm happy to give way.
I thank her for giving way, and I congratulate her on bringing this very important debate. And because of the age restrictions in accessing NHS mammograms, and because of the importance of early diagnosis, which the Honourable Lady is highlighting, does she agree with me that self-awareness and self-examination in young women is absolutely critical in the battle to beat breast cancer?
I thank her for that intervention. She's absolutely right. We need to continue to raise awareness. But what I'm wanting particularly to point out is that even when young women are aware and they go to a doctor, then a doctor says, oh, no, don't worry about it. But I do agree that we need to continue to make sure that women examine their breasts themselves and are aware of the risks of breast cancer, even when they're young. I'm happy to give way.
Can I thank you for bringing this forward? I spoke to the Honourable Lady yesterday, and it's a massive issue for me back home and my constituents, and I bring it to my attention all the time. It was great to attend Breast Cancer Now It's Where It's Pink event last month to raise awareness of the most common cancer in the UK. Studies have suggested that breast cancer amongst younger women has a more aggressive pathophysiology correlating to poorer outcomes compared to breast tumours in older patients. Does the Honourable Lady agree with me that consideration most certainly be given to lowering the age requirement for breast screening to ensure quicker intervention in younger women?
Well, I thank him for that intervention, and I will come to that later on in my speech. But absolutely, I think we are here to actually make the case that we need to look into earlier screening programs for younger women, because it is becoming such an issue, and yes, the rates are increasing. Mr. Vickers, it is because of this, of the struggle of Lucy for getting a diagnosis, that she felt the need to speak up on behalf of the countless young people who wouldn't question decisions made by medical professionals. I'm happy to give way.
Thank you very much for giving way, and I congratulate you on getting this debate today. It's very important. After I survived breast cancer, one of my many emotional conversations with my daughters was about having the BRCA gene. And currently there is a postcode lottery for counselling that is available with proper genetic guidance for those identified with the gene. Does my honourable friend agree that NHS England should ensure equitable access to information and counselling services, and that fixing the current system should really be a feature of the government's future cancer strategy?
Well, I thank him for this intervention. And first of all, I'm sorry to hear that he went through a cancer diagnosis, and I'm glad that he has recovered. But also, of course, breast cancer in men is not as well known. People don't necessarily recognize that men develop breast cancer. But yes, once a diagnosis is made, it is, of course, quite traumatic for the whole family. And the counselling services need to be adequate, and there shouldn't be a postcode lottery. I absolutely agree. Mr. Vickers, the description of Lucy's story is in no way meant as an attack on the NHS. Once diagnosed, Lucy has received the top-class care for which the NHS is renowned. But Lucy is not alone that age is being used against her. There are countless similar stories of women of a similar age or younger who have found it difficult to receive an initial diagnosis, with concerns often dismissed too early by doctors as hormones or anxiety or tiredness. This is by no means the doctor's fault. They are forced to make difficult decisions of who to prioritize due to the impossible time and budget constraints imposed on them. But this doesn't make it acceptable. There is a long-standing myth that breast cancer only affects older women, but there has been a global surge in cancers among the under 50s over the past 3 decades. Sadly, this issue is not limited to breast cancer. Last year, a study found that cancer cases in under 50s worldwide are up nearly 80% in the last 30 years. More than 1 million under 50s are dying of cancer per year, and these figures are projected to rise by another 21% by 2030. I would like to draw attention to Jess' law petition to improve the awareness and diagnosis of cancer in young adults, with over 350,000 signatures. This points out the struggles young adults face in getting diagnosed, even though adults aged 25 to 49 contribute around 1/10 of all new cancer cases. According to Cancer Research UK, cancer rates in 25 to 39-year-olds in the UK have increased by 24% between 1995 and 2019. In 2019 alone, almost 35,000 people aged in between this age bracket were diagnosed with cancer. This trend is specifically alarming in breast cancer. Diagnoses of breast cancer have increased steadily in women under 50 over the past 2 decades. But in recent years, the increase has been even more stark. In 2013, for example, breast cancer in women under 50 topped 10,000 cases for the first time. To the alarm of experts, breast cancer diagnoses in women under 50 have been risen by more than 2% annually over the past 5 years. So there's clearly a trend of an increase. This is deeply concerning, especially since women under 50 are nearly 40% more likely to die from the breast cancer than women over 40. It is truly alarming that in the UK, breast cancer accounts for 43% of all cancers diagnosed in women aged 25 to 49. Yet despite this, we continue to wait until women are over 50 or older to begin routine screening. We must ask ourselves, why are we delaying early detection when the rates of breast cancer in younger women are rising year on year? Cervical cancer screening is currently available to women from 25. Yet out of the top 10 cancers detected in those aged 25 to 49 in the UK, breast cancer outweighs those of cervical cancer by more than 5 times. This discrepancy simply does not make sense. If we can screen for other cancers earlier, we should do the same for breast cancer. Early detection saves lives, we all know that. And we must ensure that all women, regardless of their age, have the opportunity for life-saving screenings. Young women are also more likely to develop aggressive forms of the disease. Breast cancer is the most common cancer in women, and it remains one of the leading causes of death in women under 50 in the UK. Unfortunately, as we've heard from Lucy's story, younger women often face a much more challenging diagnosis. Younger women are more likely to be diagnosed at a later stage of the disease with larger tumour sizes and greater lymph node involvement. The cancer in younger women is also more likely to be biologically aggressive, with subtypes such as triple-negative breast cancer, which is harder to treat and has poorer outcomes. As a result, younger women have significantly worse prognoses with a higher risk of recurrence and death compared to older women. This stark reality is something we cannot ignore. In fact, premature death from breast cancer in women in their 40s accounts for the same years of life lost as those in their 50s and substantially more than those diagnosed in their 60s. This is crucial. A death in a woman in her 40s and 50s represents not just a loss of life, but a tragic loss of potential life years. Researchers also found an increase in diagnosis of stage 1 and stage 4 tumours, which suggests that when stage 1 tumours are missed in younger women, the tumours tend not to be found until they reach stage 4, at which point it is incurable. Early detection can make all the difference. During the last Parliament, a petition got over 12,000 signatures calling for funding to extend breast cancer screening to women from the age of 40. This widespread public support reflected the growing concerns around early detection. The government response was deeply disappointing. The government continues to refer to the Marmot Review as its main reference point, citing the lower risk of younger women developing breast cancer and the fact that women below 50 tend to have denser breasts, reducing the accuracy of a mammogram. That is true, that the risk of younger women developing breast cancer is lower, but as statistics show, rates of breast cancer in women aged 25 to 49 are rising fast. This upward trend demands urgent attention. Also, while mammograms can be less effective in women with denser breast tissue, this should not limit our approach to early detection. While continuing to use modern digital mammography, the government should also look to expand the use of automated breast ultrasound. Ultrasounds are especially effective at detecting abnormalities in dense tissue that might be missed on a mammogram. This technology is not invasive, quick, and radiation-free. They are often used for secondary screening for women with dense breasts. Automated breast ultrasound can detect up to 30% more cancers in women with dense breasts than mammograms alone. By embracing both mammography and ultrasound, we can significantly improve detection rates, ensuring early and more accurate diagnosis. Last week, in light of Sir Chris Hoy's bravery in sharing his story about his struggle with prostate cancer, the Health Secretary asked the NHS to look at the case for lowering the screening age on prostate cancer, particularly for people with a family history of the disease. This is an important and welcome step. However, we must look at extending this approach to breast cancer as well. Both diseases share a significant genetic link. A family history often increases the risk. By aligning screening policies for both prostate and breast cancer, we acknowledge the shared genetic risks and provide a better safety net for those affected. Various parts of the NHS, Mr. Vickers, are competing for investment, but it is clear that short-term investment in this area will save money in the long term. with fewer women needing extensive long-term treatment if it is caught early. According to Breast Cancer Now, breast cancer will cost the UK economy almost £3 billion in 2024. And the annual cost of breast cancer to the economy could rise by almost 40% to £3.6 billion by 2034. So I call on the Department for Health and Social Care to review the National Breast Cancer Screening Programme to identify where changes can be made to increase capacity in the system, to ensure that where appropriate, a women's initial screening appointment, to ensure that, let me say that again, to identify where changes can be made to increase capacity in the system, to ensure that where appropriate, a women's initial screening appointment can happen at a lower age. I also call on the government to investigate the merits of early optional ultrasound for women aged 30 to 49. Finally, we must educate healthcare professionals and increase resources so that younger women seeking help are always taken seriously, investigated thoroughly, and never dismissed. This is not just about policy change, it's about giving people the best possible chance to fight back against cancer and live healthier, longer lives. I hope that the Minister has heard Lucy's story and will actively look at changing the way we screen for breast cancer for good. Thank you.
The question is that this House has considered breast cancer in younger women. Minister.
Thank you, Mr Vickers, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship today. And I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Bath for bringing this debate to the House today, and Honourable Members for their interventions and their contributions. And I'd like to pay tribute to the Honourable Lady for championing the story of her constituent, Lucy, and others who, like Jessica Parsons, who have done so much to raise awareness. It's a powerful role that we have as members of Parliament, and I commend her for doing that today. I think she's done an excellent job. She's absolutely right. Awareness raising is key to catching cancer early, and the most effective way to tackle breast cancer in younger women is to encourage them to check their breasts regularly. Now, we know the NHS is going through the worst crisis in its history, and this government will turn the NHS around so that cancer patients are diagnosed and treated on time. The investments we are making now in breast cancer treatment and research are part of our plan to make the NHS fit for the future. Now, as regards to screening in younger women, though a woman of any age can get breast cancer is, as she has said, much more likely to occur in women over the age of 50. And that is why our screening programme sends women their first invitation at the age of 50. However, I would like to take this opportunity and really emphasise this point, that the take-up of breast cancer screening currently is below 70%. This is really very worrying. It's very worryingly low, and we are determined to change that, and I make a plea to all honourable members to help the government achieve that greater take-up of breast cancer screening in women over 50. Women need to come forward for screening. Now, currently, the evidence taken as a whole does not support regular mammograms for women below the age of 50. But decisions on screening, including the age to offer it, are made by experts on the UK National Screening Committee, and those decisions are kept under review so that they continue to be based on the best research available. Now, ultrasound can be used as a diagnostic tool, but it's not appropriate for screening. Mammograms provide the fuller picture of the breast and are better able to spot early signs of cancer. Mammograms used for screening are less reliable for younger women, as the Honourable Member said, given their denser breast tissue. Change in the screening age could mean a greater risk of false negatives where cancer is missed. There would also be a greater risk of false positives, which may lead to invasive testing when there is no need. Now, this is in line with most European countries, most of whom screen women between the ages of 50 and 69. For those younger women who have a greater risk because of their family history, we offer screening using mammogram or MRI. Though, as I have said, the most effective way to tackle breast cancer in younger women is to encourage them to check their breasts regularly and to consult their GP straight away if they have any concerns. Now, Mr Vickers, I'm happy to.
Just very quickly, but Lucy has done that, and she was dismissed. And I think today's debate is particularly also about awareness raising of the medical profession that breast cancer in women, and particularly if they do know about a family history, some people don't, that they are not being dismissed and taken seriously.
Well, I think the Honourable Member makes a powerful point that, of course, if somebody comes, particularly with family history, that they do have that better relationship with their GP, and their GP is undertaken that, and I think she's made that point powerfully today. Because, Mr Vickers, we know that the sooner cancer is diagnosed, the more treatment options are available, and treatment is more likely to be effective with an early diagnosis, and of course primary care and GPs are essential in that pathway. And I agree that the Honourable laboured that we need to pay attention to the upward trend in demand. NHS England runs campaigns to increase knowledge and awareness of key symptoms, but we can all do more, because breast cancer is thankfully rare among younger women. But the more they are aware of the symptoms, the more they are likely to see their GP, and indeed that GP can be made more aware of those trends. So I would like to take this opportunity to highlight Breast Cancer Now's touch, look, check advice. The NHS and the government supports this advice, and I would encourage women, no matter how young or old they are, to check their breasts often. Because breast cancer remains one of the most common cancers in England. Almost 50,000 people are diagnosed each year. Instances of many types of cancer are rising, as she has said, amongst young people in this country, and we are not yet certain of the causes of this. Now, while breast cancer is thankfully less common in younger women, we cannot afford to be complacent. And we must, as she has highlighted, remember the human stories behind this number. Lives disrupted, the trepidation of diagnosis, the uncertainty faced by loved ones. Now, we can take some comfort from the fact that more women are surviving breast cancer than ever before. Between 2016 and 2020, the one-year survival rate for breast cancer was over 96%, enabled by advances in screening, treatment and care. But there is much more to be done, Mr Vickers, and I want to ensure honourable members that it is a top priority of this government to speed up the diagnosis and treatment of every type of cancer. On the 30th of October, my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, restated and backed this commitment. The first Labour budget committed £70 million for new radiotherapy treatment machines and £1.5 billion for new surgical hubs and diagnostic scanners. This investment will allow the NHS to undertake 30,000 more procedures each year, and a capacity for diagnostic tests will increase by 1.25 million. This further funding will enable us to make sure that cancer can be diagnosed or ruled out as quickly as possible, something we all want to see. We also continue to pave the way in identifying the best possible testing and treatment for all types of cancer. Research is a crucial part of this. That is why the National Institute for Health and Care Research has spent £33 million on directly funded breast cancer research in the last 5 years. Investment alone will not be enough to tackle the problems facing the NHS. That would not be enough to tackle the problems facing the NHS. That would be like pouring water into a leaky bucket. We need investment and reform. Now, when you've worked in the NHS as I have before, you see firsthand what's great, but also what isn't working. The things more money simply won't fix. And as my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, has said, we need to take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS. We need to do more to meet the challenges that cancer present to us now and in the future for people of all ages. And that's why we've recently launched the biggest national conversation about the future of the NHS since its birth, to help shape our 10-year plan. A plan will allow us to do more to prevent cancer where we can, identifying it as early and as quickly as possible and treating it with speed and precision. But we need suggestions from the honourable members on how to go further. We need to learn from the experiences of Lucy that she has outlined today. Now, I urge everyone today to visit change.nhs.uk and help us build a health service fit for the future. So, in closing, I would like to thank the honourable member for Bath for bringing this important matter to the House and raising her constituents' issue. I thank all honourable members who have made such valuable contributions on this important subject, and I'm pleased to assure the honourable members that rebuilding our NHS and delivering world-class cancer treatment and prevention services for every person will always be a top priority for this government.
The question is that this House has considered breast cancer in younger women. As many of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The sitting is suspended until 2:30. Order. Order.